I think you have to do some things in your work life, especially if you work for yourself, that you just genuinely enjoy, regardless of how much it affects your bottom line or not, because it just makes your day-to-day that much better. So, you don't have to, but you can make a choice to do that. And that's what I choose to do. Hey guys, welcome back to the WIIM Podcast. My name is Jessy Grossman. I am the founder of this awesome community, Women in Influencer Marketing, and also the host of this podcast. For those of you who are new, giant welcome. So today's episode, it's going to be a little bit different. I will be super transparent with you guys. I've actively avoided talking about this topic for, the entire podcast, because I did not think anyone would be interested. However, the universe is telling me otherwise, because I've had a few conversations with people just in the past week or two, and they're like, how have you not spoken about this topic before? This is definitely something that we're interested in. So I'm giving it a shot. I'm trying to practice what I preach here, which is experiment, try new things. You never know, see what happens. And the topic is a little bit of behind the scenes about the business aspect of WIIM. I'm here always talking about influencer marketing and our guests and all that. And I didn't really think many people would be interested in this. However, perhaps because more communities are popping up and more folks in WIIM are just really business minded and having their own businesses and things like that, I'll touch on certain things and hope that it resonates with you. And if it does, please let me know. I'm certainly happy to talk about this stuff. I'm always an open book. Again, I was just concerned that nobody cared. So we'll see if you do. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIIM, the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwiim.com/join. That's iamwiim.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community. So what is WIIM? First of all, it's Women in Influencer Marketing, and we started back in 2017. The origins of WIIM are pretty simple. My background is as a talent manager, and living in New York, there's never been a lack of networking groups, but the ones that I joined had no idea about influencer marketing, which I started in a few years before we started WIIM. So I was sort of looking for something like WIIM, and it just didn't exist. So my advice to anybody who's wondering is, if you have an idea, if there's a void, if there's a white space, something that you genuinely need, there's definitely an opportunity out there for you, and to totally go for it. What I'll also be transparent about is that WIIM was a complete passion project for years. It was a place where I could, throw events. And back in the day, we had our Facebook group that was super active. We've since transitioned to Slack, but I used it selfishly to grow my other business, which was my talent management firm, and help my clients and get them deals and make more connections. I sort of used it as, in my mind, it was always a marketing tool for my work as a manager. Little did I know that a few years later, I would sell that agency and be like, what the heck am I going to do with my life right now? And, WIIM had grown. We'd given it years, literal years though, of making not a penny, not a dime, and only spending money. So I just want to be very transparent about that. People are they only see what exists now. And we, for years, literally made not 1 cent. And actually we're in the negative. So I was sort of faced with this decision after I sold my agency and saying, well, maybe WIIM could be something. Maybe there's an actual business here. It was in the middle of the pandemic, the weirdest time in the world. And it was actually a time where I felt like people needed us maybe more than ever because people were looking for guidance of how to navigate their careers during this crazy time, how to navigate campaigns during a time when the world felt like it was on fire. So we launched WIIM, and by we, I mean me, back at the very end of 2020. And when I say launch it, it was like version 2.0, maybe even 3.0, but who's counting? And I did everything. I will say who I hired and what they did though. So, because I didn't technically do everything. I did splurge and hired a website designer and developer to create what exists currently, which has been so much more improved since its inception. And that is the membership site. I don't know that everybody fully appreciates how complicated such a site can be. We use WordPress. We used to use this terrible plugin on WordPress that I can't even say their name and somewhat promote because they're terrible. But we, about probably like a year and a half later, switched from that one to one called MemberPress. I think they're great. Their support is awesome. The functionality is pretty good. So we use MemberPress. That is a plugin on our WordPress site that supports all of the membership functionality. We also have tons of other plugins and like very custom work that's done on the site to make it run how it runs. And we want it to be like a really good user experience so people can go on our website and book mentorship sessions, obviously like sign up for the membership. When they sign up for the membership, it unlocks lots of pages on the site that you can't see unless you're logged in, signing up for events and getting a discounted ticket because you're logged in. Like all of those things, our membership directory, all of these things take technical expertise. I love that sort of stuff. Like I'm very tech minded and I enjoy that world. And so like for me, it was actually really fun because since I have no formal training in it, it's one of the fun parts of being an entrepreneur. I'm like, I always had a random interest in tech, but like no one's going to hire me to work in tech because I have no experience, but like I can theoretically like hire myself, quote unquote, and dive into a project and learn so much. So build the website, build the functionality, have a wonderful developer that we hired probably like 2 years after that we still have to this day, who helps continue to build out the website and maintain the website and fix it when it's running slow and does some pretty complex stuff on the site. I don't think a lot of people fully appreciate, I don't think I would appreciate that like WIIM's website needs a developer who works for us all the time, but he does. He's great. We have a podcast team. Shout out to you guys. So we have a whole team of folks who edit the show every single week. We've gone through different people over time, but the people that we've hired and worked with for the last probably a year and a half at least, we've stuck with the longest and we like them. We also have 2 virtual assistants and we've definitely cycled through people over the years. I think the ones we have now, like theoretically, every hire that you have currently should be so much better than the ones that you've had in the past. And so I can definitely say that for sure. In terms of our VAs, you've seen them in Slack and they're managing a lot of the community elements, a lot of the behind the scenes, like technical work in terms of when you have to offboard people when they unsubscribe from the membership. You have to onboard people when they subscribe. You have to make sure that people with password login issues and people who have issues of any sort can reach somebody fairly quickly and be helped in a really nice way. So we have a couple people who do that. Well, mainly one person. And then the other VA who we have mostly handles all of our emails and our graphics and our promotional material, our social posts, things like that. She's our newest hire. I used to do all of that myself. It's been a cool process. Cool. That's probably not the truth. It's been a hard process. I should be honest about letting some of that go because I did it for so long and I am very particular about the way that our brand looks and feels and sounds when it comes to copy. But once I sort of did relinquish control and found somebody who works well and we collaborated together, it's been an insane help to be able to have someone who more or less fully handles all of that. I mean, I certainly give approvals on almost every piece of content, which some could argue is way overreaching, but it produces the best stuff. So I do. yeah, it's been great to get that off my plate. It's been great to have, a right-hand person who's our VA who does all that technical work that I was describing before. It's phenomenal. Quick question for you guys. How much do you love redlining agreements? Yeah, me too. Let me tell you about our latest sponsor called Caveat. So Caveat with K is an AI-powered contracting platform that simplifies and automates your contracts. It'll hugely improve the way that you review partnership agreements. So if you're a media company or an entertainment company or a management firm, it's a must-have tool. Look, sometimes you do need to hire a lawyer, an expensive lawyer nonetheless, to work on an agreement because it's over a certain threshold, and a good lawyer can be invaluable. But what about all those other partnerships, those other contracts that are for $5,000 or even like $1,000? That's where Caveat comes in to support you and your team through AI to process your contracts to gain a competitive edge through data-driven insights and automatic AI-driven deadlines. It's game-changing tech, and it's founded by 3 brilliant women. So you know why I'm out here supporting it. Get time back in your day because Caveat will help you with the part of your business that may be your least favorite. So head to our website. It's iamwiim.com/caveat for a completely free trial. That's iamwiim.com/KAVEAT. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. And now I'm in this position where I'm going to be going out on maternity leave. And I'm like, how is that going to work as somebody who runs her own business? And sure, I have a team, but I presently, they wouldn't be able to run without me, right? They look to me for direction. So I'm taking the next few months to figure that out. And so far it's been absolutely mind-blowing and so cool to see how many people have raised their hand to say, oh yeah, while you're out on mat leave, let me cover for you. These are not my employees. These are just people as part of the community. And I love that. I want to hear from different voices. So people are, doing master classes and all these events that I'm scheduling, 10 minutes before I started recording this throughout the time that I'm going to be on mat leave. So there's so many cool events that are coming up. So keep an eye out for that. The podcast, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to see how many episodes can I pre-record? I guess we'll see. The in-person events, we have this incredible ambassador program where we have 1 to 4 ambassadors in each city. That was something that we started this year to see how can we expand and pseudo scale what we've been doing, but not have it all be on my shoulders. So we've got a team of probably 20 people in about 12 different markets or so in the US and overseas who are spearheading these in-person events. And they're the ambassadors of that city's chapter. And, we're trying to empower them to just create these really cool events. And they're at the epicenter of it. They're the face of WIIM LA. They're the face of WIIM Chicago, WIIM San Francisco, all the different cities. And I love that. And so being able to span beyond myself and really, truly work to scale a community has been a really interesting process. And I think for a long time, I was really stuck in it just being too much around myself. And I would never be able to take a mat leave, something like a mat leave, if that were the case. I would never be able to take a vacation if that were the case. And I know that some of you can definitely relate to having your own business and being the everything of that business. And that is hard. So I would highly encourage you to start small so you can build upon it. And just that being finding a dream team, finding ways to delegate. There are, conservative ways of doing it. There are economical ways of doing it. A lot of our folks are offshore. So, we pay those types of rates and fees. We barter a lot of things, stuff like that. And that's how WIIM is profitable. And most membership and recurring income communities are. I've spoken to a couple people in the past year through this business association that I'm part of who just they're we would love to emulate your business for our use case. But the idea being that this repetitive, so the idea of having recurring income, right? a subscription is a really powerful thing. And it's something that you can scale, you can grow and build, you can, rely on. And so no matter what business you're in, you don't have to be in the community business, the community like networking business. But let's say you work in marketing. Oh, this is actually a really good example of this. Okay. So we're having a baby shower in September, and I'm looking for photographers. And I found this one photographer who unfortunately I don't think I'm going to hire because her rates are out of control. Her work is beautiful. But here's what I took from her that I think is really interesting for you guys to consider. So most photographers, they charge per hour, they charge per session, whatever. That's what, generally you see. She had a membership. And I was like, a photography membership? How would that even work? It's brilliant, you guys. So she shoots a lot of maternity shoots and photos. And so she's like, well, a lot of women who are, having kids, they don't just want maybe the maternity shoot, but they also want, the birth, and they also want 6 months and a year because the kid is changing so quickly and they want to capture those moments. So instead of selling one session, she's like, well, if you buy my membership, we work together over the course of 4 shoots over the course of a year. And I was like, ooh, that's so good. That's such a good example of, you would never think of a subscription that you would what are you subscribing to if you work with a photographer? Well, she showed you that there's this totally valid subscription of sorts, membership, she calls it. So I love that. I think that's something really interesting that all of us can consider in terms of how do you create recurring revenue? Also, I'll just be very honest with you guys, the pressure, it's so much lower than it used to be. Of course, we have sponsors, for example. And so when things go awry, there's pressure there. When we have, a sponsor who pays a lot of money to us to exceed expectations or meet expectations, of course there's pressure there. But when you just generally have recurring revenue coming in and people who are just constantly part of your ecosystem, there's just I don't know, it doesn't feel quite as stressful running that kind of business. That's just me. I will always add my own level of stress that is just innately there because that's just who I am. And I always want to strive for more and better. But when I've been in other positions and I've done other jobs, I have felt so much more stress when I'm constantly chasing the next deal, when I'm constantly trying to appease the next client, the next big deal, the next this, that. And I just kind of really love having the idea of this recurring revenue where it just feels very different in terms of the business. I touch on sponsorships. We also do have sponsorships as well, which is something that I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I never thought I would be on the receiving end of a sponsorship. Again, my background is in talent management. So I've always managed and negotiated deals for other people. So to know that people want to get in front of our community and pay us to do so has been a really interesting, eye-opening experience because we're not doing it also in the quote unquote traditional way that influencers are. Sure, we have created some social content with people, but that's actually not really our bread and butter. Our bread and butter in terms of sponsorships is usually events. So we'll invite a bunch of people to an in-person event and they want to sponsor that. Virtual events we've done as well. So that's been really interesting to sort of discover how do we create the most ROI for our partners, and it's almost it's also just wrapping my head around the fact that this is even something that I offer for my company. I'm so used to being on the other side of things. But I would say our revenue is last year, it was pretty split down the middle. It's about 50-50 between recurring memberships and membership fees and sponsorships. So they can be pretty lucrative and really interesting to do, but it feels very organic for us because it's our members are constantly looking for new companies and tools to sort of solve their problems. And so we try very much, and it's pretty easy, I'll say, to partner with people who make sense to get in front of our members. And we try really hard to do it in a really organic way. And we're learning as we go, to be completely honest with you. And then the last thing, which is WIIM related, but I have this is something that maybe more of you can relate to, which is that I I also have a consultancy. And so I know a lot of you guys have gone out on your own and you're starting your own business. And I freaking love that. And I'm always here to support that. In fact, I'm like contemplating how we can add more resources in WIIM besides just like our freelancer Slack channel and a few things that we have. I think there's more that we can be doing. So I have a consultancy. It's called Tribe Monday. I don't really advertise it a ton because WIIM is really my focus, but I do it because I'm like ADHD and I like having different things to focus on, not just one. So it's really refreshing when I get to do like a little recruiting, through Tribe Monday, which is the majority of what Tribe Monday is. It's an influencer marketing recruitment firm. Again, I don't advertise it because it's not my main business, but it's so connected with what WIIM is. So companies, or mostly agencies or like a lot of tech platforms, especially will come to me, management companies, and be like, we're looking to hire an influencer marketer. We're looking to hire a talent manager. Like, can you help us find someone? And so through WIIM and just through like a larger network, it's like a traditional recruiter, but very specialized in the creator economy. So it's also interesting. The idea that I want to impress on you guys is like, can you create sort of like sub businesses of a main business to, not put all your eggs necessarily in one basket? Like the businesses that I have are certainly related, adjacent to each other, et cetera, but like, I don't know, if membership plummets one day and we have an issue with no one wants to be a member of WIIM anymore, like I still have my consultancy, which is like, again, like it lowers my stress level a ton, knowing that I have like backups on backups. And just like when we talk about scaling, which I know I've mentioned on this website, I know I've mentioned on this podcast before that I can't stand the word scale. It's mostly because I don't think people truly understand what it really means to scale. And I don't think many business models within the creator economy are built for scaling, but a good business is, and so it's possible to scale in the creator economy. And I think that like, that's one of the ways that you can do that is by like building upon a business idea and like, what else can you add to it? And what else can you offer? If you have like a viable customer who's sitting right there and they're like, yeah, I like you. Like, I want to buy your stuff. Like, how many things can you sell them? It'd be nice if you could sell them more than one. So the recruiting is another part of my business. It's been really interesting. I've been doing it now for probably like 3+ years. And like, it's big pops of money. I love it because I feel like I make a huge impact. It's really cool to be able to get someone their next job, like the next step in their career. I mean, that is really rewarding for me personally. So I love to be able to do that. And then the other part of, Tribe Monday, I've been hired to do all sorts of consulting work, random things, like really random that I won't even get into. But the other more consistent thing is the coaching. So I've been doing coaching for creators, but rarely. Basically, like acting as like a interim manager, that's my background, right? But I'm not I'm not negotiating their deals. I'm giving them all the strategy that I would give my influencer clients. So they pay me on an hourly basis for coaching. That's rare though. I've definitely worked with some creators, but for the most part, I work with talent managers because that's the majority of my experience. So I've worked with some agency owners who want to build their agency, perhaps to sell, perhaps to just grow and streamline their businesses and their teams and get everything buttoned up. I'm like a nerd when it comes to execution. So we'll have regular weekly or biweekly sessions and talk about stuff like that. But I've also, for the most part, been hired to actually work with the managers directly. So the owners of the agency will say something along the lines of, we have these 2 managers and they're like, they have so much potential, but for some reason, like they're not booking what we would want them to be booking. Can you work with them? And it's really nice, I think, from everybody's perspective at that company to have like a third party, neutral, new, fresh blood, fresh eyes to come in and just like talk to them. Like it's like a business therapist. People have equated it to that when they've worked with me. It's really fun because I get to like in real time solve problems with people and like really get people to work at their highest and best capacity. So it's really been fun to do that. Is it the most lucrative use of my time? Hell no. But I charge the lowest rate that I usually charge is a couple $100s an hour and it goes up from there. So it's certainly not nothing, but like I usually make more money doing other things in my day. Why do I do it then? Because I like genuinely really enjoy it. That's the truth. So you can make the argument that maybe I should drop it, but I do. I think you have to do some things in your work life, especially if you work for yourself, that you just genuinely enjoy, regardless of how much it affects your bottom line or not, because it just makes your day-to-day that much better. So, you don't have to, but you can make a choice to do that. And that's what I choose to do. So that is the core of like the behind the scenes of like business. There's certainly more to it. This is absolutely the abridged version, but I got a few questions from people in the last couple of weeks, like I mentioned, who were like, I'd love to hear a little bit more the behind the scenes of WIIM and the actual like business behind WIIM, behind your consultancy, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope this was interesting, and I'm more than happy to talk more about it. I mean, I've got everything, like I'm happy to share everything because I think that it'll just help other business owners or aspiring business owners to be able to build their own thing. And so I love talking about this stuff, and happy to do it more. So if it's something that interests you, what I would say is send us a DM, send me a DM on Instagram. It's IAMWIIM. That's I am WIIM on Instagram, and tell me your thoughts. Tell me your takeaways from this conversation. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was insightful. And if you want to see or hear more about it, let me know. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at IamWIIM.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we could ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.